Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In the heart of Crescent Lake lies an unnervingly serene town. Its streets lined with colonial-style homes, each one casting a historical shadow over the next. Some speak of the charm that keeps most residents entrenched in nostalgia, while others whisper of the secrets that linger like fog on the lake's cool surface. It was here, in June of 1984, that an inconceivable tragedy would shatter the tranquil facade of this tight-knit community. On a warm Saturday morning, the townsfolk awoke to the sun's first rays spilling across their manicured lawn. The air was thick with the scent of blooming lilacs and damp earth, remnants of a recent rainstorm. Children biked through the neighborhood, laughter mingling with the chirping of birds, the sounds of summer resonating with the promise of long, carefree days. Yet, beneath this cheerful facade, a dark undercurrent simmered on, poised to erupt. As families gathered at the town's center for the annual summer fair, an undercurrent of anxiety rippled through the crowd. In the distance, sirens wailed, an ominous sign that something was amiss. Hours later, the gentility of Crescent Lake was shattered. The lifeless body of a local teenager, Sarah Holden, was discovered in the woods just beyond town borders. The horror of the morning's events eclipsed the summer sun. What questions would linger unanswered? And what fears would take root in the hearts of the residents? The victim, Sarah Holden, was known for her boundless energy and infectious spirit. 17, she was a beloved daughter, sister, and friend. A bright beacon in Crescent Lake. A senior at Crescent Lake High School, her laughter rang through the hallways, buoyed by dreams of becoming a journalist. She spent countless nights penning stories in her worn leather notebook, a constant companion. Tall with a cascade of chestnut curls and piercing green eyes, Sarah epitomized the small-town girl with ambitions that reached far beyond her boundaries. Friends described her as empathetic, creative, and fiercely loyal, always willing to lend an ear or offer a comforting word. Her warmth attracted a diverse circle of friends, each drawn in by her unpretentious nature and vibrant enthusiasm for life. But in the weeks leading up to her death, there was a noticeable shift. Sarah seemed distant, her laughter occasionally intertwined with a hint of anxiety. Those who knew her well noted her sudden absences from weekend outings and the whispered conversations with her parents. The carefree girl many remembered had been weighed down with an invisible burden. Such changes prompted speculation. Perhaps it was the pressures of impending adulthood, or a dark current running through her friendships. On the day Sarah went missing, she had planned to meet friends at the lake, a popular spot for jumping into the cool water on a hot summer day. It was unusual for her to not return home by sunset. As the evening shadows lengthened, worries escalated into fear, and fear spiraled into despair. Days later, that despair morphed into the tragic certainty that would forever enshrine Sarah's name in the annals of Crescent Lake's history. The crime scene. The discovery of Sarah Holden's body lay cloaked in a shroud of disbelief and dread, shaking the foundations of Crescent Lake's seemingly idyllic existence. On a moody June afternoon, a pair of hikers stumbled upon the grisly sight, a tangled mass of underbrush encasing the lifeless form of the beloved girl. Makeshift trails wound through the dense foliage, but it was an eerie silence that both enveloped and betrayed the tranquility of the surrounding woods. Her body lay in a small clearing, beneath shadows cast by ancient trees, their gnarled branches intertwined like skeletal fingers. Tattered remnants of clothing clung to her silhouette, a stark contrast against the earthy tones of the forest floor. The air was pungent with decay, mingled with the bittersweet aroma of wildflowers, creating an unsettling dichotomy of beauty and horror. Onlookers held their breath, eyes wide as authorities cordoned off the area, blurring the lines between serenity and tragedy. Forensic teams arrived, methodically marking significant evidence with small numbered placards. Measuring tapes unfurled, capturing the chilling dimensions of the scene. The young girl had succumbed to violence as her body bore the marks of an altercation, bruises, and contusions, signifying a desperate struggle. The investigators found no signs of a weapon, yet they felt the weight of the uncertainty pressing down on them, each unanswered question compounding the town's grief. As the sun dipped behind the trees, casting long shadows that danced uneasily on the forest floor, a palpable anxiety settled over the investigators. Who would harm such a vibrant soul, and why? The darkness of the woods whispered secrets, yet offered no answers, and the echoes of Sarah's laughter faded into the mist like a tragic refrain. The early investigation. In the days following the discovery of Sarah Holden's body, Crescent Lake felt the crackling tension of a community unaccustomed to the shadow of violence. News trucks lined the roads, capturing forlorn expressions and whispered rumors, while the astute eye of the public turned inward, suddenly suspicious of their neighbors. A cloud of unease settled over the town, every interaction now tinged with doubt. Detective Laura Richmond, a seasoned investigator with years of experience in homicide cases, took the lead in the investigation. She arrived at the scene with quiet resolve, her brow furrowed in concentration as she noted every detail. Richmond was intuitive, trusting her instincts while prioritizing the delicate balance between thoroughness and sensitivity. She knew each step she took could shape the case, influencing community trust fractured by fear. In the days that followed, the team retraced Sarah's last known movements. Interviews unfolded like delicate petals, revealing layers of Sarah's life. Friends recounted a recent fight with her best friend, causing suspicions to swirl. Others mentioned an older boy, a recent transfer to the school, seen lingering near the lake in the days before her disappearance. Old grudges and budding romances now tangled into a web of potential motives: jealousy, betrayal, unrequited love. As the investigation cast a broad net, forensic evidence took hours to piece together. Fingerprints, fibers, and scattered debris collected for further testing. Inside the precinct, officers huddled around a cluttered table, charts and photos pinned to the walls, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of fluorescent light. The clock ticked steadily, marking time as both enemy and ally, but Laura and her team remained resolute. Somewhere in the chaos of youthful naivete and heartbreak lay the perilous truth they sought. The dead ends. As the days turned into weeks, the initial fervor of the investigation waned, gradually replaced by the gnawing despair of unanswered questions. Detectives pursued leads like fading stars, their brilliance extinguishing before full illumination could reveal the truth. The older boy, once a promising suspect, provided a solid alibi. Cameras captured him miles from the lake on the day Sarah disappeared. His name was cleared, yet the specter of doubt loomed over the town like a perpetual fog. Friends who had come forward with rumors began to retract their statements, concern growing for their own reputations. The friction between Sarah's peers, once a vibrant web of affection and rivalry, twisted into accusations and mistrust. Laura Richmond, who had dedicated countless hours honing her instincts, felt the frustration seep into her bones. Each lead that fizzled out was like a knot tightening in her chest. Meanwhile, forensic tests trickled in, revealing little beyond the obvious. The absence of a murder weapon left a void where answers should have been. Each report was analyzed and reanalyzed, revealing not, but the same bleak conclusions. A drift of anxiety began to settle in the hearts of the officers. The palpable desperation manifested in late-night meetings, unyielding discussions that spiraled into endless debates. The woods that once echoed with Sarah's laughter were now an unspoken graveyard of hope. Townsfolk turned to each other, uncertainty coloring their interactions. Who among them harbored secrets? As whispers echoed through the taverns and restaurants, residents reverted to closed doors and wary glances. Hollow-eyed parents kept their children close, while a sickly weight settled over the community, belied by the innocence of some. A break in the case. After weeks marked by frustration and dead ends, a flicker of hope emerged when an anonymous tip rang through the police precinct's phone line, shattering the silence of despair. The caller, a nervous voice barely audible over the weight of hesitation, spoke of a party held the night before Sarah vanished. The address given was just outside Crescent Lake, in a rundown cabin frequented by local teens on weekends, yet another backdrop for the turbulent lives of adolescents. Detective Laura Richmond felt a surge of renewed purpose as she gathered her team for the late-night stakeout. Under the cover of darkness, they parked along the overgrown dirt road, distant music pulsing from within the cabin like a heartbeat. The scene felt charged, tension buzzing in the air as officers scouted for signs of life and whispered exchanges. A few cars, remnants of an all-night party, dappled the gravel lot, and figures emerged, casting long shadows against the flickering porch light. As the clock ticked toward midnight, a group ambled outside, laughter spilling into the night air, muffled, but tainted with an undercurrent of anxiety. Richmond's team focused their attention on a boy, a familiar face, one who had previously brushed off questioning with vague responses. Unbeknownst to them, he had been present when Sarah's raw emotions clashed with the alcohol, tensions rising until they erupted in a series of heated confrontations among the party's attendees. The dialogue they had overheard painted a picture of discord. As the night unfolded, fragments of resentment and betrayal slithered through the conversation, and Laura felt a desperate rush of clarity. Buried truths might still be lingering at the cabin, the ripples stemming from that night threatening to draw in those who thought themselves immune. The team regrouped to formulate a planned confrontation lay nearby, waiting in the shadows as they ventured into a night that held the possibility of unveiling perilous secrets. The suspect, as the early morning sun broke through the heavy humidity of night, the atmosphere of Crescent Lake shifted. The cabin vibes of reckless youth now morphed into a cauldron of suspicion as Detective Laura Richmond and her team prepared to confront their potential suspect. Justin Hale. Known for his striking blue eyes and charismatic demeanor, he obscured a more complex reality beneath his effortless charm. He was a local boy whose enigmatic presence had insinuated itself into the lives of several girls, but his connection to Sarah stirred beneath the surface like a coiled serpent. Hours later, with a softened approach, Laura and her partner arrived at Justin's home, a small, unassuming structure clinging to the edge of town. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with a lingering trace of morning dew. Justin opened the door, his perplexed eyebrows raised in surprise. It could have been mistaken for innocence, but the slight twitch in his smile betrayed an edge of something dark. Laura's heart raced as she stepped inside. The walls, adorned with trophies from years past it, felt like a mausoleum to unfulfilled promise. They asked about the party, pressing for details regarding Sarah's interactions, while he evaded their questions with practiced ease. He spoke of laughter, drinking games, and dancing, his voice a dance of bravado devoid of true vulnerability. But the creased brow and tight-lipped smile hinted at the writhing emotions beneath. The tension thickened. Laura noticed a few framed photographs on the mantel. Justin and Sarah shared fleeting glances caught in laughter at past school events. As she probed deeper, new layers unveiled. Friends mentioned growing animosity between Sarah and Justin after a series of flirtations devolved into discomfort. Accusations of jealousy and possessiveness unfolded like a moth to flame, igniting suspicions that lingered. The interview culminated in a stagnant silence, a stalemate of unsaid truth. Laura held his gaze, the unyielding silence stretching between them, hoping to detect either the slightest crack in his facade or a spark. Oh. The trial. Months turned into a blur as the community of Crescent Lake drew inward, united by grief yet haunted by suspicion. The trial of Justin Hale began, an event carefully woven into the fabric of small-town life, and the courtroom buzzed with a mixture of anticipation and unease. Friends, family, and the curious gathered, each face reflecting the weight of the tragedy that had caused their world to splinter. The courtroom itself was a somber placewood-paneled walls, lined with rows of carefully arranged desks, where evidence of Sarah's life and death unfurled. On one side, the prosecution stood firm, presenting a narrative of rage and jealousy fueled by fleeting adolescent passions. Their case tugged at the heartstrings of a community yearning for closure. Grief-stricken parents held onto one another, eyes darting between the judge and the accused. Laura Richmond took to the witness stand, her heart steady despite the intensity of the moment. With a fierce dedication and clarity of purpose, she recounted the events that led to Sarah's tragic fate, her steady voice painting a vivid tableau of the investigation's progression. As she spoke, families squeezed each other's hands, quietly sharing the weight of loss and the hope for justice. Justin's defense team positioned him as a misunderstood teen, framing him not as a villain but as a victim of circumstance, a scapegoat for the town's fear and anger. They called friends to testify, portraying him as affable and blameless. But as their stories unfolded, cracks began to show, revealing jealousy and conflicts around Sarah. Struggles with substance abuse and moments of explosive rage that resurfaced like disturbing ghosts. The tension reached its zenith as the jury absorbed the fragments of narratives, weighing evidence against the backdrop of collective sorrow. Every eye was glued to the judge as he prepared to deliver the verdict, a crossroad that held the potential to redefine their community. It was a moment suspended in time, fraught with the promise of closure, but tinged with the bitter realization that no verdict could bring Sarah back. The aftermath. The verdict echoed through the courtroom, leaving a palpable tension that seemed to suspend time. For some, The jury's decision rendered a sense of justice, but for many in Crescent Lake, it felt hollow, like echoes of a distant bell tolling in mourning for a lost future. The trial ended, but the community was left to grapple with its fractured sense of safety and the weight of unresolved grief that lingered like a thick fog. Within weeks, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. A veil of uncertainty cloaked the town as families pulled together, ensuring their loved ones stayed close. Parents took to organizing community gatherings, not merely to reminisce about Sarah, but as a fortifying line against further tragedy. The summer fair, which had once been a celebration, transformed into a somber vigil, honoring her memory through art and song, a bittersweet counterpoint to the laughter that had once filled these streets. Detective Laura Richmond remained despite her own battles with the outcome, returning to the precinct filled with mixed emotions. She reviewed case files, seeking closure that increasingly eluded her. The shadows of doubt festered like an open wound. Questions about missed clues, nuances obscured in the chaos of youth, filled her mind. With every passing day, it gnawed at her resolve, pulling her back into the darkness she had hoped to escape. As autumn's chill set in, whispers of Sarah's name echoed through the town's halls. Memorials sprang up, trees adorned with ribbons. Each tribute served as a reminder of lives entwined by loss. Some questioned whether justice had truly been served, while others sought solace in acknowledging the void left in Sarah's absence. Life continued, but the sorrow wrapped its grip around the fabric of Crescent Lake, casting long shadows where once there had been light. Residents shared memories of Sarah, exchanged reassuring words, and hoped against hope that perhaps one day the community could emerge from grief into a more profound understanding of love, loss, and the fragility of life itself. Reflection. Months had passed since that fateful summer, but for Detective Laura Richmond, the weight of the unresolved case loomed heavily. As she stared out the precinct window, autumn leaves spiraled in the wind, embodying the transient beauty that life could hold, fragile and fleeting. Crescent Lake now bore the scars of tragedy, etched in the hearts of its residents as a reminder of what had been lost. Laura reflected on the people whose lives had been forever altered. Sarah's parents wore their grief like a second skin, clinging to memories of their vibrant daughter in quiet moments. In the local cafe, conversations dripped with sadness, laughter now tinged with melancholy, as patrons held Sarah's story in their hearts. The town sought healing, but beneath the surface, doubts remained, questions unanswered in the echoes of memory. She found herself attending support groups for families of victims, her evenings spent with others who understood the weight of unresolved loss, the way it settled into the bones. Each story shared created a bridge connecting hearts torn apart by violence, humanizing the lives once reduced to headlines. In those moments of raw sharing, Laura's heart ached, but also found solace. Strangers became allies. Together, they forged a path through shared suffering. Each day, she renewed her commitment to honor Sarah's legacy, grasping at moments she could still shape. He vowed to seek truth and advocate for those who could no longer speak. Within the fabric of the mundane, she began to see the power of love, connection, and resilience emerge from the ashes of despair, igniting hope anew.